Hey everybody, welcome to episode 132 of the AskDAP show, where I answer your Volkswagen and Audi questions. On this episode, we talk about IS38 turbo failures, razor sharp shifter trims, and TSI timing chain warranty extensions.
Mark via Facebook asks, does anyone have proof or recent data on the reliability of the newer IS38 revisions, more precisely the revision 874F? I know this is still a dice roll in terms of reliability, but rumor has it the newest revisions are more reliable.
IS38 turbos. So since pretty much early Mark 7, everybody's always been looking for the latest and greatest turbo revision, that's IS20 or IS38, and people have always been looking for proof positive that they can guarantee that a turbo is going to be good. So the problem is that with this question is the only person who has the data on this particular issue is not going to release it, and that would be VW. So there's not going to be a widespread list that's going to create an option for people to know definitively X part number is better than Y. But more importantly than that, and that's true for anything, because anytime you see a post on any type of thing like Facebook, this was on the Mark 7 Facebook group, which is a great place and a great resource for people, and it's an awesome community. But most often what you're going to have in that is somebody posts something asking a question, and if somebody had one fail, you're only getting the responses of people who had them fail in the past. So even if you do, let's say you get 5 responses who said they had them fail, that doesn't include how many people who have purchased one or installed one or whatever who actually have not had one fail and they're running perfectly fine. So, and again, with that said, there were some comments, some people who chimed in. Pretty much the only turbos that were problematic on the Mark 7s were mostly the earlier versions. Certainly the IS20s and the GTIs, but also some of the earlier IS38s also were a problem. But there's been a bunch of super sessions. The 874F is one of them. They are on back order. We do have a few on hand currently. ShopDAP.com. We'll make sure we link them in the description below. We can check them out, but I would not actually worry about concerns about popping the later revisions. I know people were having them balanced and whatever else previously, and they've since the shop who was most commonly balancing them is not. I don't know all the details around why that is, but I know they did have some failures and could be some concerns around the ability for them to balance them properly. So with that said, I would just say I don't think that there's going to be any major concerns. And frankly, I don't know that any single person has sold enough of them as far as a sample size to know definitively that they're definitely good or bad. You know, if we sold 10,000 of them, then maybe that would be a sample size big enough. But even if you sold 1,000 of them on a particular product, that would be a decent sample size. But I don't think anybody's even sold that many of a single turbo part number at this point.
Steven via Facebook asked, took my car in for a free car wash and the lady cleaning it inside broke the aluminum trim around the shifter. Now I have a razor sharp piece of trim sticking up. Anyone have a site to buy this or the part number? I'll try and get the car wash to pay for it, but I'm probably out of luck.
Okay, so for anybody not familiar with what he's referring to, Mark 7s have a shifter, and then around the shifter there's an aluminum trim on the trim that goes around the boot, essentially. And what happens is where the cup holder opens and closes, there is kind of a sharp edge that will catch on things, especially people who like clean their cars a lot. They'll catch something on it and they'll actually bend the metal up a little bit, and it'll cause a sharp edge to be exposed. That's not to be related to. I think there was an issue with some people's start-stop switches that actually had pieces of it that were flaking out, and the aluminum actually would create a sharp edge and they would cut their finger on it. So question is, what can you do if they're not covered in warranty? So frankly, there's nothing you could do. If you are out of warranty, if you maybe service with a dealer often, you can talk to them about possibly doing something for you. It's something that generally is not going to be the case for something like that, because a lot of times outside influence can cause things like that, especially if you're cleaning your car and it bends. Obviously, it's not, and there are some concerns around the design that have caused that problem, but outside influence is actually what caused the problem. It's not a defect from the factory in that circumstance. If it happens under your bumper-to-bumper warranty, usually you're not going to have a problem. Again, that could even vary depending on the dealer. but there's really not much you can do. You can try to go down the road of trying to get a lawyer, but there's no way that any lawyer is going to work for what you would just cost to replace the part for. So I've seen a lot of times people try to work on recalls. Recalls generally only happen under some very, very either safety concerns or major defects. And even then, as most recently happened with these TSI timing chain tensioners, that particular circumstance actually only came on the back of a class action lawsuit which happened, and that issue was extremely expensive, and even for an individual wouldn't make sense. It was, on average, I would say $3,000 to $4,000 for on the conservative side. That's probably an estimate of what it would cost them to do one of those timing chain cylinder head repairs. So, with that said, that's probably going to be something that if you want to fix it, which I always recommend do because you don't want to have sharp edges all over your car, you're just going to have to replace the part, unfortunately, because there's no amount of calling and complaining. You can potentially reach out to customer care to see what they say. Most likely what happens is they're going to reach out to the dealer, find out you're out of warranty, and there's not really a lot they're going to be able to do for you there. So sorry for the bad news, but I don't think you're going to be able to resolve that issue. And one note, I know you mentioned you're a customer of ours. I appreciate the support and always glad to help when we can.
James via Facebook asked, I have a 2014 Volkswagen GLI and I just received a letter from a New Jersey lawyer that is representing me in a class action lawsuit about a timing chain. Should I wait until mine breaks or get a new one?
Okay, so James is referring to TSI class action stuff. I actually wrote an article recently about this, trying to give my interpretation of what's going on. I am by no means a legal expert. I do understand the problem, and then trying to basically interpret the legal language that they use. It leaves kind of some open-ended stuff that I had some questions about that I don't know for sure, but I explained in that article that I will link in the description all about kind of the different scenarios for different customers. So if you are somebody who has had an issue with your timing chain and you're looking to get reimbursed, make sure you check that out because it will try to spell it out to the best of my understanding as to what's going on. With that said, and actually Charles and I, on a side note, Charles and I have talked about maybe doing some stuff around this to kind of give our take on what's going on with this situation. So we'll see if we end up getting together on that. Should you update your timing chain tensioner? So no, I would not. The extension, if your vehicle applies to the warranty extension, this is the important part, is make sure your vehicle applies to the warranty extension. You can run your VIN on that website, which is linked in our article, to see if you would classify under the warranty extension. I believe, I don't know if it's just reimbursement or extension, but if you qualify for the extension, then I would say just wait until you hit the either 10 years or 100,000 miles. It's going to be whichever comes first. And then you can worry about it then. Now, with that said, what I would do is as you approach that time frame, make sure that you don't have a stretch issue and make sure you don't have the old tensioner, which on your car, you're not going to have an old chain tensioner in the vehicle because you have a 2014. If you have a stretch issue, that's a whole different ballgame. So you will want to make sure we have a video that shows you how to check for stretch, which we'll link. Nate will link here as well as in the description, and that will allow you to take a look at understanding how to check for stretch with an OBD11. But I wouldn't recommend doing it unless if you don't qualify for the extension. This is for anybody who their VIN, for whatever reason, doesn't qualify or they exceed mileage. I would suggest, as we always have, check your tensioner. In your case, you don't need to, and check for stretch. If you do those two things, you will make sure that you are safe and that you have addressed the issue so you don't end up with an engine that jumps time and bends valves. So, and we also did put out a video recently on TSI cylinder head replacement video, kind of not a DIY, but more of a kind of a follow along while we do the repair. So be sure to check that out as well.
Beer Leaguer via YouTube asked, I have a 2013 Mark 6 and I'm looking for some recommendations after watching this video. Should I bring my car in for a checkup on this timing issue? I'm looking to add a KO4 kit to it soon, but this got me thinking if it's a good move. My warranty is gone, so no problems there, and I'm currently running Stage 2+. Or should I have this checked during my KO4 install? Thanks.
Okay, so this question around timing chain stuff, first, I would say yes, certainly you are going to want to check it. If you do apply, as I answered in the last question, if you do apply to the timing chain extension, you may not need to worry about it. But here's the most important thing, and I've seen this a lot in my years in the industry, is people are they're so excited to upgrade their car, they lose sight of the important things like timing chain tensioner. So my concern with anybody who's upgrading to a KO4 is that because any of these things, whether it's timing chains or a KO4, is going to be a costly repair install, that you're not going to have enough money when you go after you pay for a KO4 and the install to update the timing chains if you actually do have a stretch problem. And failing to update your car if it's stretched and you've exceeded 100,000 miles means that your engine could jump time and it could cost you $4,000, which on many cars that as they age is going to be a worthless car. So that is super important to me. I always want to make sure, don't ever modify a car that isn't in proper running condition, because failing to do that could put you in a really bad bind where you can't afford to make the repairs you need to just to keep the car from having a catastrophic failure. In that circumstance, timing chains jumping time, and ensure that everything is good going forward. And I know that's not the most fun thing to say, but it is a thing that I strongly urge anybody to do in that circumstance, is that focus on the stuff that's going to keep your car running instead of this stuff that's fun for now, because a 3,000-pound paperweight with a jump timing engine isn't going to do you much good.
Daniel Madrano via YouTube asked, I replaced the hydraulic tensioner, but I did not use any oil or get the air out as you recommended during the video. I believe I cranked the engine before the first start, but don't remember. Should I be concerned with the timing?
Okay, Daniel, so this comment was actually left on our video about TSI timing chain stuff. I guess that's all we're answering questions about today, is going to be timing chains. What he's referring to is there's a tensioner bolt that's hydraulically driven. And what I mentioned is that when you have a new one that you purchase that we include with our timing chain kits, submerge it in oil and pump it until all the air comes out of the tensioner bolt. It isn't required. I would suspect if your engine is running, it didn't jump time. So two ways that you would know if you jump time. And again, for anybody who's working with an engine that's going to be apart, what you should do, an easy thing to do before you start your engine, obviously once you make sure you're all in time and everything and put it back together, is disconnect your ignition coils and crank the car and let it just crank a little bit. It will allow you the oil to pump up a little bit before you start the car. That way you get oil circulating through all those vital systems before you start it, and then you'll know for sure that you have oil in the system and everything is good. So that should be good in that circumstance, and I would not worry if that was going to be a concern there. Thanks so much for watching episode 132 of the AskDAP show, where I answer your Volkswagen and Audi questions. If you have any questions or comments about the questions answered in this show, be sure to leave in the comments below. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more like it.